Oh, what's up, people? I'm pretty certain I'm live. Um, Jumping on real quick. Pull this up so I can pay attention. All right, so I briefly am just going to talk about what it means to let go or release. I just had a really good coaching session with someone, and this was a theme that came up, and also a theme of my life for the last week. Well, the last few years, but the last week for sure. Because last Thursday I did a releasing ceremony, if you will, and everything that has happened since then in my external environment has been a reflection of the things that I said I wanted to release. And so I'm sharing this because I do feel like um, there's a lot of like misconceptions when it comes to what it actually means to release things or let things go. It's actually a very, we'll say, natural process that happens in your evolution. It's not something that we can force because again, it's all energy and energy can't be forced. It just flows however it's going to flow. We can resist it, persist it, and that will amplify it. But we cannot force letting go of things. And I feel like this is something coming up for the entire human collective, this narrative of letting go and getting over things and releasing things. And again, it's just very, very misunderstood. So I'll share my perspective based on how I work with energy and how this letting go process has revealed itself in my personal journey. But I've said this in other videos. When people come for a healing session with me, um, again, I'm not healing them. I am being invited because they're coming for a session to tap into their energies within their body and their mind. And I essentially am shifting these energies and bringing them up to the surface. So then that individual can acknowledge them, feel them, remember them. And in that process, the letting go happens organically, right? And the letting go oftentimes has to happen multiple times. And this is why I also do grief coaching, because the process of grieving is also the process of letting go, which is synonymous to feeling it all. That's literally what releasing and letting it go means. It's actually bringing everything up from the core wound of whatever the wound is to the surface. So it's bringing it to our conscious awareness, right? That's what this whole shadow work is. It's bringing the things that we've buried in the dark up to the light, into the conscious awareness, into the body, which ironically makes you feel it so intensely. And so that's why I say there's a strong misconception around what it means to release things, because they think people think like, oh, if we just set the intention and I sit down and do a meditation to release this, or if I ask my guides to come in while I'm sleeping tonight and help me release these things, that then I'll magically wake up in the morning and I'm going to feel great. I'm here to tell you, whatever it is that you set the intention to release, that energy is going to get a lot louder in your life. It's going to get louder in your internal worlds, and there will be external experiences that will act as a catalyst for helping you release this. And so, to give it more of a personal share, because I think it just helps people relate when I'm talking about these things. In my releasing ceremony last Thursday, I set the intention to release residual insecurities and feelings of unworthiness, specifically that stemmed from or were created in my marriage. Fast forward a week. And I have had multiple external experiences from both my ex and other individuals and just life experiences to bring forth these narratives of insecurity and unworthiness. And so it's just very interesting how the universe, because the universe is you, responds to these very intentional commitments, right? A commitment to self. Like, I'm committing this to my journey and myself, that I'm ready to release these things. And I know for me, when I say I'm ready to release something, that means it's going to get, that thing of which I'm releasing is going to get really loud and it's going to be really uncomfortable. And this last week has been another, we'll say, uncomfortable week. Um, I've had worse, put it that way. Um, it meaning like worse in the sense where I feel like the periods of uncomfortableness just like, I don't want to say destroyed me, but kind of put me down and out for long periods of time, which that's how it had to be. That's how this process is, right? But the more I surrender to that, the faster these things kind of move through me now, right? Because it's like I just surrender to it. I just surrender to whatever is coming up essentially. And so um one of the other things that came through in my last session when we were talking about, what does it actually mean to let things go, release things? There was this other phrase that came in that was so powerful because as as spirits being humans that have been very, we'll say, disembodied, disconnected from the human experience because it's been painful and traumatic for a lot of us. Um, we don't even really know how to identify what we're feeling when we start tuning into emotions that are moving through us. And I know this just from myself and from coaching people and helping people, listen to their body. What is your body telling you? Well, your body speaks through emotions, right? And if we're disconnected from our body, then we're not allowing those emotions to be the very powerful messengers that they are here to be. And so as we start kind of waking up to this realization, like, holy shit, I don't even know what I'm feeling, it can be hard to ask ourselves that question in the moment. Like, what is coming up for me right now? What am I feeling in this experience? For me, I can do that very easily now, but it's taken me years to get to that awareness of self and what emotion is actually coming up for me in each now moment and being able to identify that for myself. Because again, as I've said in other things, like joy for me is different than it is for someone else, right? We all feel and process things differently. But I have found that sometimes people get stuck, if you will, in this self-reflection when they can't even identify what it is that they're feeling. And so another question that you can ask yourself that is so powerful, because I've started doing this too, but then it came in really loud in my last coaching session, is what's the story that you're hearing play in the background? And what I mean by that is when you're in a situation in your day-to-day human life and you're being, we'll say, triggered by someone or something in the external. And like I said in a video I recently just made about the word trigger, like we think trigger means like bad, right? And trigger just means an energy within us was like activated. It was awakened. It was the light was the light switch was flipped on, right? It's a trigger. And so like we can have positive emotions that are triggered by external experiences, or we can have negative emotions, right? So like a trigger is really just um, I always say triggers are teachers, but it's really just uh, it's a sign that there's something within you you haven't acknowledged, right? That's why it's being triggered. It's like, hey, this energy is telling you it's ready to be released, meaning it's ready to be acknowledged or felt or heard or addressed, right? So pay attention to it. So, this very powerful question of asking ourselves, what's the story I'm hearing in the background when I'm being triggered, will help you identify the emotion that's coming up first and foremost. Because I guarantee you'll either be brought to a memory of a similar situation where a similar energetic exchange is happening. And so you'll be like, oh, I know how I felt then. Oh, that's how I feel right now. And I'm getting chills right now as I'm saying this. So I really feel like this question, asking yourself this question when you're someone who wants to do like deep self-reflection and grow through old ways of being is so powerful. It's so empowering to be able to say, hey, subconscious and unconscious minds, can you tell me what story you're playing in the background right now that makes me feel like a victim in this situation? Right? Whoo, let me tell you, that is where you start to take your power back. Because I've had multiple experiences this week where my wounded parts felt like a victim to other people's behaviors. Now, whether or not I was discerning those energies appropriately, and that is really what was happening, or it was my own projection coming from my own wounding, it doesn't really matter in my world because it still is something coming up for me, through me, for me, right? So asking myself that question of what's the story in the background right now, because I got to know why I'm feeling like this and it's not going away, right? Like when it's perseverating and ruminating and it's like, why haven't I let this go? Right. And we do that to ourselves a lot. Like we um, sit there and shame ourselves for not letting things go, or we shame other people for repeating the same victim story, right? Like because we have a hard time holding space for people because we haven't again held that space for ourselves. And so again, energy is energy. It's going to go when it's going to go. It will go faster when we bring our conscious awareness to it, right? Like because now you're giving that energy that has been suppressed a voice. You're allowing it to be heard in your own body. You're allowing it to be felt. And so, in this illusionary space and time, that does allow these energies to move through us faster. Because how can we release things that we don't have a conscious awareness we're holding on to? The body will eventually tell us, and I've said this in many things I've talked about because this was the beginning of my spiritual awakening was my physical body shitting the bed on me with a multitude of diseases, right? But really it wasn't my body shitting the bed. My body was like, I need you to pay attention to what I've been trying to say for like 10 years with all these very subtle symptoms that were coming in. Like pay attention to your body. Like the fact that I have the nursing background merged with the energy, intuitive, shamanic perspective is honestly such a gift for me because I realize how important our bodies are and how intelligent our bodies are. And when you really tune in and tap into them and allow yourself to be embodied, you're going to feel a lot more in this human experience than ever. But it's not to then become this disempowered empath of, oh my God, I feel everything so deeply, right? Like, and I say it like that because that was my victim story for a long time. I don't see it that way anymore. There's days where it's hard when I feel I'm processing other people's grief and emotions 100%. It's a challenge, but it's also such a gift because I realize how strong I am to be able to be in my body, to be able to process all of my stuff and the collective stuff without holding on to it. Because it's not my baggage to hold on to. Even my own baggage is no longer my baggage to hold on to. That's why doing these powerful releasing type intentional You can call it ceremony, whatever you want to call it, but it's really just setting that intention and putting it out there that you're consciously ready to release something. That, again, remember when you're doing that, you're going to be met with that energy very loudly. That's the release. That is the release. But it's also validation that you're releasing it. These types of, I mean, to me, and maybe it's just because I'm a super deep diver, but I've never really had like a healing session with either other practitioners or even myself that I'm like, oh, I just released everything and I feel fabulous. Oh no. Usually my healing sessions are like, oh, fuck, like so much shit just came up to the surface, and now I'm going to spend the next week processing all of this. But that to me is validation that it's working. Like, it doesn't scare me. It's like I know that that's part of this whole process. Like, the more I'm feeling in these shifts, the more I'm proving to myself that I'm shifting because I'm not numbing out anymore. I'm not running from it. I'm not afraid of releasing what I'm asking to release. And so, again, the two biggest things I wanted to just jump on, and I am going to make this one quick today because it doesn't have to be long, because it's really these two things. The art of letting go or releasing means that you are inviting those energies in to feel them even deeper. You're inviting those external experiences in even more to, we'll say, challenge yourself or give yourself an opportunity for growth. Are you going to meet that same experience with the same energy you did in the past? Or are you going to choose to use more of your conscious awareness that's growing every single day, every single minute of every single day, and say, I think I'm going to choose to operate from this vibration this time and see if this shifts my reality? And it will, 1,000%. I promise you that. It will shift your reality. That is becoming more of a conscious creator, right? And realizing that as a conscious creator, a lot of that is surrendering to what's coming up. Like, being a conscious creator doesn't mean we now come in and control everything. It's actually the opposite. It's being able to surrender to the energetics of this realm and what's coming up. Because when you do that, then you learn how to be more conscious in how you be in life, if that makes sense. So, again, to really quickly recap, the art of letting go or releasing whenever anytime you go for a healing session or a releasing ceremony, understand that that means that these things you're releasing are going to be very prominent and prevalent in your life. But it means you're ready for it. If you weren't ready, it's not going to come up. That's a huge, huge thing to own for yourself. If you're not ready for it, it wouldn't be coming up. Your higher self knows what you're ready for. It's the human self that creates all the limitations and the stories, right? But if it's coming up for you, you're ready. You're ready. So trust it. And then again, the very, very powerful question to ask yourself when you're trying to maybe identify what you're feeling. Because I can tell you with grief, grief is the, for lack of better terms, the convergence of a multitude of emotions like simultaneously happening. So like when you're grieving, it can be kind of hard to ask yourself, what am I feeling? Because I know for myself, when I'm in a state of like deep, deep grief, I'm feeling anger, frustration, sorrow, depression, joy, gratitude, pain. Like I'm literally feeling it one right after another simultaneously. But so that can make it challenging to ask that question of, what am I feeling right now? So instead, ask yourself, what's the story playing in the background? Hey, subconscious mind. Hey, unconscious mind. What story is playing in my background right now? Just ask it. And then have no attachment to what comes through, how it comes through. Just trust. That's where trust comes in. Trust is like one of the biggest parts of this whole journey is being able to trust what's being presented to you, trust what's coming up for you, trust that you have the capability to navigate no matter what it is, trust that you're going to come out on the other side of whatever it is, stronger, wiser, more loving, more with more gratitude. Like trust, 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 trust. It is the one word that since I will say spiritually awoken, my guides have continuously used with me is trust. And I used to get really frustrated because I'm like, I don't know what you want me to trust. Like, I don't know what it is that you want me to trust. And it was like, all of it. I want you to trust you. I want you to trust everything that's coming up for you. I want you to trust that you can navigate everything that's coming up for you. I want you to trust that when you get intuitive hits, that it's an intuitive hit. And it's like, oh my God, they really mean trust everything. Trust me. Trust the universe. Trust that if it's coming up for me, it's because I can handle it. Right? So again, if you're letting it go, if you're releasing it, just know that you're going to feel it more. You're going to be presented with it more. And if you're trying to identify an emotion within you or multiple emotions and it's becoming frustrating because you can't, ask yourself what's the story playing in the background. I hope that helps. I love you all and have a fabulous day. See ya.